This week on Vatican Connections, the College of Cardinals expands as Pope Francis created 17 new cardinals. The Jubilee Year of Mercy came to an end last Sunday, and we look back at the Year of Mercy with our correspondent, Matteo Ciofi. Hello and welcome, I'm Emily Callan. Before we dive into the final events of the Jubilee Year, here are a few headlines from this week. Giving to the Pope's charity just became easier. The Vatican launched a new website to collect funds for Peter's Pence, an annual collection which takes place in Catholic churches around the world on or close to the solemnity of Saints Peter and Paul in June. The money collected goes to the Pope, and he then dispenses them as he sees fit. Peter's Pence allows the Catholic Church to carry out its mandate, taking part in works and structures of mercy for the most needy, the website points out. The website is available for now in English, Italian, and Spanish at peterspence.va. The themes for the next World Youth Days were announced on Tuesday. They were chosen by Pope Francis, and the Vatican press release indicated that they set forth the itinerary for the 3-year World Youth Day journey that will culminate at the international celebration of the event to be held in Panama in 2019. Taken from the Gospel of Luke, the first for 2017 is "The Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name." The second for 2018 is "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with the Lord." And finally, for the 2019 World Youth Day, it is "I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word." An interview with Pope Francis himself is a rare occasion, yet earlier this week he granted one to Italy's Catholic television network TV 2000, overseen by the country's Bishops' Conference. The 40-minute interview was conducted by 2 journalists, and in it he answered questions mainly on the Jubilee Year of Mercy. The Pope said it planted a lot of seeds. "I think the Lord will grow good things, simple, daily, in the lives of people." Last weekend was an important weekend at the Vatican. The Church was given 17 new cardinals on Saturday on the eve of the closing of the Jubilee Year of Mercy. 13 cardinal electors and 4 non-electors came from all 5 continents to participate in the ceremony. The men elevated to the College of Cardinals arrived in their red robes, received the biretta, their cardinal's ring, as well as their titles. Each cardinal was assigned to a particular Roman church. The Pope gave a homily during the celebration in St. Peter's Basilica, and in his address warned them of the danger of polarization and exclusion within the Church. Catholic News Service got to speak to the newly elevated American cardinals on the consistory and recalled the Pope's words to them.
La nostra è un'epoca caratterizzata da forti problematiche e interrogativi su scala mondiale. Ci capita di attraversare un tempo in cui risorgono epidemicamente nelle nostre società la polarizzazione e l'esclusione come unico modo possibile per risolvere i conflitti. Il virus della polarizzazione e dell'inimicizia permea i nostri modi di pensare, di sentire e di agire. Non siamo immuni a questo e dobbiamo stare attenti perché tale atteggiamento non occupi il nostro cuore, perché andrebbe contro la sicurezza e l'universalità della Chiesa che possiamo toccare con mano oggi in questo collegio cardinalizio.
Well, I thought it was very timely, what the Holy Father said, and I think the first thing is to examine ourselves in the Church to see whether we have unconsciously appropriated this virus, and calling it in the name of truth or in the name of orthodoxy or something, when it actually serves to divide. And I think probably that is a resistance to the action of the Holy Spirit.
He hit the nail on the head because a virus can be contagious and it can spread like wildfire. And he wanted to make sure that every individual took responsibility for making sure that whoever the person is that we disagree with, we do not make an enemy out of them. That we remember that we are all sons and daughters of the same God and that we are brothers and sisters to each other. So I think he was saying not only something to the cardinals, but to every individual who was there and all the people reading and listening to his talk, that we have to break that cycle of violence and hatred and bigotry. Otherwise, it will be contagious like a virus.
I feel that in this year of mercy, we all need to be a little more concerned and merciful and compassionate to each of our brothers and sisters. And I think that's the great message that the Holy Father wished to convey. And I think that we all need to learn how to respect each other. We can disagree on many points, but we need to enter into dialogue and conversation with each other. And that's what I believe the Holy Father wanted, and that's what the Year of Mercy is all about.
And finally, on Sunday, the Jubilee Year of Mercy came to an end for good on the feast of Christ the King. Pope Francis presided the rite of the closing of the Holy Door at St. Peter's Basilica, which will only reopen for the next Holy Year in 2025. He also celebrated Mass in St. Peter's Square, which attracted about 70,000 people. The Holy Father gave a homily and reminded those gathered that mercy is available beyond the threshold of the Holy Door. It is available through the heart of Christ, which is always open. Here's a clip from the Pope's homily at the conclusion of the Jubilee from CNS.
Chiediamo la grazia di non chiudere mai le porte della riconciliazione e del perdono, ma di saper andare oltre il male e le divergenze, aprendo ogni possibile via di speranza. Come Dio crede in noi stessi, infinitamente al di là dei nostri meriti, così anche noi siamo chiamati a diffondere speranza e a dare opportunità agli altri. Perché anche si chiude la porta santa, rimane sempre spalancata per noi la vera porta della misericordia, che è il cuore di Cristo. Dal costato squarciato del risorto scaturiscono fino alla fine dei tempi la misericordia, la consolazione e la speranza.
Lots has happened this past year. Vatican City, Rome, the entire church went all in for the extraordinary Jubilee Year of Mercy. Millions of pilgrims swarmed the Roman streets to pass through holy doors, participate in vigils and masses, meet the Pope. All these things were set up to give people an opportunity to experience God's mercy. I got to sit down with my colleague Matteo Ciofi earlier today and briefly discuss the highlights of this holy year. So, Matteo, looking back on the Jubilee Year of Mercy, what is it that struck you most about this past year? How did you experience this?
Well, I want to say, first of all, one thing, because in the previous Jubilee, I was 13. I was a little Roman guy, and I have a lot of memories of that.
Okay.
I remember in particular the World Youth Day in August in Tor Vergata in front of my house.
Right.
And then I remember when I went through the couple of holy doors.
Right.
In particular, I remember very well the first one in St. Peter.
Right.
And so it's a great memory. 15 and 16 years later, I had the privilege to cover it, to speak about that. And anytime that you are involved in a great event, you can find a different motivation because you know that you are speaking about something that it will be part of the history. So that's the first thing. If we want to talk about something specific, I was very impressed of the event in June 12th. It was the day about the people with disabilities. And I heard and I listened the homily of the Pope a few days ago again. The message was very strong, and it was touching because he said, he criticized harshly the people who try to keep away, the people with disabilities. And he said, we cannot do that because if you want to do that, it means that you want to live in a kind of fake world. You want to see just the nice things and the pretty things. It's not right, it's not correct. And for sure, God doesn't want to see something like that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that what's really interesting too is that mercy isn't something that's new to the vocabulary of the Church, of our faith. It's something that obviously is very much a part of our identity. However, having the Jubilee Year really allowed us to speak about it more and to put it at the forefront. And I think that that now it's not something just because the Jubilee Year is closing that we're going to forget about it. And I think the Pope has said that in the last few weeks, leading up to the end of the Jubilee Year, that just because it's ending, it doesn't mean that God's mercy is also being closed off to us.
For sure. Yeah. And he mentioned a few times, one concept. He said a lot of times, if we do every day a little act of mercy, we can do a revolution.
Yeah.
And it's not a kind of exaggeration. I think it's true.
Yes. And so what do you think is the main takeaway, the main message that we shouldn't forget about this Year of Mercy?
There are a lot of things for sure. Yeah. The Pope stressed many times a couple of concepts. But a few days ago, I listened to an interview that he gave to TV 2000, that's the main Italian Catholic network.
Television, yeah.
And he said, we cannot forget one thing. Justice and mercy are the same in God.
Yes.
I think it's a kind of resume of the Year of Mercy. Because it's a clear message, and it's something that we cannot separate these two things. They are the same things in God.
Yeah, he says they go hand in hand, right? Yeah, and he also said in his interview that mercy doesn't necessarily mean that we're taking away the justice, right? Yeah. That again, it's something he mentioned as well in his apostolic letter to close off the year, when he tells the adulterous woman, to go and to sin no more. He's not telling her go and continue living the life that you were living, but to go and sin no more. And so there's always that element of hope that yes, there might be a consequence to the sin or to the bad that we see or that we do. However, there's always the element of hope, and I think that he was stressing that in his interview as well.
And then he said that because it's never easy, to find a good balance between justice and mercy, because then you have to think about the real life, in terms of crimes, this kind of thing.
Yes.
Because you have to do something in the real life, but then you have to think also in a religious way.
Yes.
So that's maybe one of the most important challenge.
Yes.
It's never easy to find this kind of balance.
Yes. And when he spoke to the prisoners, so again, this was recently, it was another special Jubilee celebration that he had, and you had thousands of men and women who came with accompanied with their families or staff who worked in prison, and that was one of the core messages as well.
For sure, and then we have to think about one thing, that he didn't blame these people, because he said, for sure, you did something wrong, no? And now we are paying the consequence of what you did. But at the same time, maybe you did something like that, like a consequence of the world that you have around you.
Right.
You are paying consequence of something bad around you.
Yes.
It's your fault for sure, but sometimes it's not like you are a bad person.
So we mentioned the apostolic letter that was released at the conclusion of the Jubilee Year of Mercy, called Misericordia et Misera, or mercy with misery. Now, what are some of the main points from that letter?
There are 4 points. For sure, maybe in a journalistic way, the most important one is the one related to the abortion.
Right.
But the point is exactly what we said before, in terms of the year of mercy is over, it doesn't mean that the mercy is over.
Right.
So, and in this letter, in this document, we see all these points like, okay, you have to keep doing these kind of things.
Yes.
And if we read something, we can see easily the message of the Pope, no?
Yes.
Because he spoke clearly, saying, okay, for the priest, now you have to keep doing what you did during this year.
Right.
So you have to think about the people, you have to listen to the people, and in this case, like the abortion, you have to think about that, you have to absolve people who did that. But then it's always a little bit more complicated. Go through.
Well,
this
I can read what he did write about that, and I think that what you're saying is that what the Pope is trying to do is not to just close off the year and say, okay, well, we had all these great things that happened, and we spoke about mercy and it was beautiful, but really that this is something that needs to continue and to be extended in time. So the Pope said, given this need, lest any obstacle arise between the request for reconciliation and God's forgiveness, I henceforth grant to all priests, in virtue of their ministry, the faculty to absolve those who have committed the sin of procured abortion. The provision I had made in this regard, limited to the duration of the extraordinary holy year, is hereby extended, notwithstanding anything to the contrary. And then he goes on to restate that that abortion is a grave sin, since it puts an end to an innocent life. In the same way, however, I can and must state that there is no sin that God's mercy cannot reach and wipe away when it finds a repentant heart seeking to be reconciled with the Father. And so again, he's saying, this is, we can't just close the doors to people who are seeking to reconcile themselves with God at whatever state or stage that they find themselves in their life.
Yeah, then he mentioned also the ministry of the missionaries.
Yes, he did.
And he paid attention again about the poor, because he said something about the World Day for the Poor.
Yes.
And then about the Pio Decimo.
Right, the fraternity of Pius X. Yes, you mentioned the Missionaries of Mercy, and what he says about the Missionaries of Mercy is that they can continue their mission, and so that the bishops can find a way to help them continue to fulfill their initial mission that they began at the beginning of the Jubilee Year of Mercy.
It's always the same message. It's like, go on.
Yes, exactly. Now, it might be difficult to do this, but what would you say are kind of the main events of this past year?
I think there were 2 main events. The first one was a very Italian event. And I'm talking about when Padre Pio, the relics of Padre Pio,
of course,
were in Rome in February with San Leopoldo Mandic, because a lot of time people don't mention that, but I mean, they were important. So I think it's very difficult for the people from other countries to understand and to realize the importance of the figure of Padre Pio, San Pio, for Italian people. There is a huge devotion for him. And it was very important. And then the other one was in September, about Mother Teresa. This one was maybe more international. Padre Pio was very Italian. Right. This one was very international. Right. But in particular for Mother Teresa, I think that she was so important also because everybody has a memory about her. Because she was a contemporary figure.
Yes.
So
Very much so, yeah.
I can remember something. For example, I remember when she died, because I was 10, and have something, about her. And I think it was another great event, also for all the people who went to Rome.
You spoke about how all these both these events happened in Rome. How did the city react or welcome the Jubilee Year of Mercy?
Well, we have to say first of all one thing. So Rome is not a European capital city. It's a great city. It's a capital. But we cannot put Rome on the same level of Paris, London, or Berlin. First of all, because it's not so efficient like all these other cities. But the biggest difference is one, that Rome is used to have huge events. And Rome is used to welcome 100,000 of people every year. So just if we think 2 years ago when there was in April, at the end of April, the canonization.
John Paul II and John the 23rd.
Yeah. So every year there is something important in Rome. And the city is used to host these kind of things. And it's like, it's always ready. And it's the good thing.
Right.
And also in this case, I think that everything was okay. It was the Year of Mercy. So if you think something different, maybe you are not exactly understanding what the event means. It's not a show. It's not entertainment. It's not the Olympic Games.
Right.
It was the Year of Mercy. It was a special jubilee.
Thanks a lot, Matteo, for being with us today.
It was my pleasure.
Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia, president of the Pontifical Academy for Life, was interviewed by Vatican Radio on the Pope's apostolic letter Misericordia et Misera. And more specifically, on the question of abortion, he clarified the Pope's words from the letter, saying that the decision made by the Pope did not intend to banalize abortion. Rather, the Archbishop specified that it gives the person committing this act to understand the gravity of what they're doing and to change their ways. The Pope is also considering the difficulty many women find themselves in, he added, when they feel alone and don't find support. Mother Teresa of Calcutta was canonized by Pope Francis in Rome on September 4th, 2016. Thousands of pilgrims were present for the celebration in St. Peter's Square as the Church welcomed the foundress of the Missionaries of Charity into the Book of Saints. People came from all over the world to celebrate this new saint. In his homily, the Holy Father said that St. Teresa of Calcutta will always be known as Mother Teresa. He reminded the crowd that she was a generous dispenser of divine mercy, making herself available for everyone through her welcome and defense of human life, those unborn and those abandoned and discarded. Did you know? Close to 22 million people participated in the Jubilee Year in Rome. 5,000 holy doors were opened in cathedrals around the world. 5,000 holy doors were opened in shrines and sanctuaries. 1,100 missionaries of mercy were sent out. How much I desire that the years to come will be full of mercy, so that every person can experience the goodness and tenderness of God. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send them via Vatican Connections Twitter page at Vatican Connections. I'll be happy to answer them on our next episode. And that's all for tonight. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care and see you next week.